you, you know what I'm saying, to document what you've done over the years. What made you want to write this book?
Well, it's been a long time coming, man, to be honest. And I wanted to do something really that sort of sets the historical record straight. Coming, straight from, L.A. and Compton and growing up there and being a part of that early West Coast hip-hop scene and then subsequently the whole of entertainment. I just wanted to do something that filled in some gaps, sort of dispelled, some of the mythical, stories that were out there and kind of just really let people know a little bit more about, my experiences and how I grew up and my influences, but also to just make sure that the historical record was accurate and for things not to sort of get pushed to the margins because, so often, people's memories fade or people have their own sort of perspective on things, which causes for certain items to be neglected. But I think it's important for, the culture, the hip-hop culture and the fans of hip-hop and people who love it to really get a full sort of understanding, a 360 understanding of hip-hop. And that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to, to put this work together and give people that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always important that we are able to tell our own stories, too, because so many people out there, they'll want to tell it for you. Was that part of your motivation, too, like you said, to get it right, to make sure that nobody else screwed things up?
Absolutely, man. And it's nothing, out of, narcissism or arrogance. It's more about, because I'm a historian, too. So I always try to make sure that, the research is accurate as possible, that the narrative is accurate as possible, because I think, man, it's important that people sort of understand for other generations and just people in general who are coming into the culture or trying to understand the culture, that how it happened, how it evolved, what were the motivations, who were the major, players and who did what to really make it, what it is. And it's important for those who are coming after us, but also those who have gone on and maybe, some who have passed away, they don't get a chance to really tell their stories. So, yeah, you're right, man. It was just something that I felt was necessary so that the story would just get told right and, correctly. Like, I'll give you an example of something that's in the book. A lot of people don't know that even after, Dre and Cube, went on from and left to do their own thing from Ruthless Records, I started working with Eazy-E. In fact, I was in the studio and I did a drop for the Ruthless radio show. And Eazy turned to me and said, "Hey, man, you want to do something? Can you do something on this drop?" So I did the drop, me and Yella, just like old times. And then after that, Eazy and I started talking about working on a studio album together. So that's something that's not in the Straight Outta Compton movie. So there are connecting dots, that needed to be put into this whole narrative, so that people could get again a 360-degree understanding of what the historical record is.
Now, Eazy, as you know, Eazy-E, rest in peace. He's a huge part of our show. We just recently interviewed Cemetery Tim, who did the new tombstone for him, and as well as his daughter, Erica Wright. She was on the show to speak about that tombstone unveiling. Now, what was your relationship like with Eazy-E? I know you said you were talking about working with him and stuff towards the end of his life. Mm-hmm. What about like the early days of N.W.A? Were you ever considered to be part of that group?
They had asked me to join, and I wasn't in a frame of mind to do that because, one, a lot of the stuff that they were doing or some of the, stuff that they were rapping about, that just wasn't me. And I was in college, so I had to sort of represent a certain different kind of agenda, and, back then, what people should understand is that, when you're in college, at a university and you're in a particular program or department, a lot of that, who you are and your character is a part of that responsibility. So I knew that the professors and the folks in that particular department wouldn't, appreciate if I was, out there, talking one thing, on the records, but trying to live another way and trying to promote something completely different, at school and represent something different, at school. It might be a little different now, but still, again, I was in the African Ethnic Studies, department. And a lot of those professors were very, very big on, Afrocentricity and uplifting the community and building on, the legacy of, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and Marcus Garvey and W.E.B. Du Bois and, Frederick Douglass and people like that. So what would I look like, rapping about, robbing, killing, stealing while, I'm in this program to try and uplift the community and build a better sort of, America. Also, I had a deal with Sutra Records, at the time, and as a solo artist. So, I was in that contract, sort of in that vein as well. So there were a lot of factors involved with me not, getting involved or joining up with N.W.A. All I love their music, man. Don't get me wrong. Those are my brothers, for life, and I was so proud of their journey and their success. But I was just tied to sort of a different agenda, a different track that I was on at that time.
Yeah. Rendezvous kind of said something similar too. It just stuff they were rapping about just wasn't him. And I appreciate you guys for being real and authentic, because so many people fake the funk, so to speak, including most N.W.A, excluding Eazy. He seemed to be like the only dude that, or Ren too, from what I hear, the only two guys that were really in the streets, so to speak. But later on, after N.W.A had their run and everything, Eazy-E was doing the radio show. You and him were talking about doing some stuff. Were there any talks with you possibly signing to Ruthless? Because I know you dropped the G-Funk album year after Eazy died in '96. Was that something that maybe you wanted to put on Ruthless?
It would have been something that helped inspire that, because Eazy, in fact, some of those tracks that came off of the, Shining on the Funk album would have probably been in that direction, with what Eazy was doing and the Ruthless family. Yeah, but that was definitely something I would have been looking forward to, working with, with him on. And, my perspective was more about how do we display lyricism with the context of, our West Coast vibe that was happening at that time, but also still give the people those, those catchy dance tunes and just sort of, be a well-rounded artist. Because, again, my musical roots were actually in music. My grandfather, Curtis Knight, also known as Curtis McNear, was best friends with Jimi Hendrix, and they were in a band together. They played together. They wrote, songs together, and he wrote 2 books about Jimmy and those experiences. Even after Jimmy came back from the experience, they did, music together. And my father was a horn player. My grandmother was in a gospel singing group. I'm related to the Hawkins family, who wrote the song "Oh Happy Day." So my familiar musical roots were solid, in that, and my DNA is from that. So I always wanted to do, things in music, but just be a well-rounded artist. I never wanted to just limit myself to sort of one vein or one genre. And so that's kind of like what I had talked with Eazy about. And he understood that. He respected that, and that's the direction I wanted to go in.
Yeah, it's almost like you have the similar visionary, to Eazy. You know what I'm saying? Like you have your hand and your mind set in a lot of different things. You know what I'm saying? Whether it be the book or film or music. Did you and Eazy have that type of connection? Like, were you guys able to throw ideas back and forth off each other?
Yeah, I think so, and that's what I admired about him, because he wasn't a person of a lot of words. He was a man of few words, but he had vision. You could tell he was always thinking. He was always thinking, 9 steps ahead, and he wouldn't necessarily come right out and tell you, let's do A, B, C, or D. He would kind of suggest certain things or ask the question and sort of give you the option, of doing it or not. Or yeah, man, that's a good idea, that kind of thing. So he was a smart dude. He wasn't by any measure. He was I guess the kind of person that wanted everybody to sort of see the bigger picture.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. At this point in time, when he passed, what were your initial thoughts, about how he passed, and do you believe the theory that he just simply died of AIDS?
My reaction was I was very sad by that, because it was somebody I knew. And at that time, the whole, HIV/AIDS epidemic was still, it spooked a lot of people because, folks didn't know. They had some knowledge, but it was still like, well, how do you get it? Do you get it from eating something, or do you get it from touching something, or do you get it from, what? And people were still sort of afraid of that. And at that time, there were no treatments, really. There was absolutely no cure. So when he contracted, it. You couldn't tell. You didn't know until towards the end of his life that he was really sick. So my reaction was really, I was heartbroken, saddened by that, because I know he was a good dude. And as far as the theories go about if he contracted or how he contracted it, I don't know. I have no knowledge whatsoever, of that. And, I'm hoping that, it will come to light one day. I know that his family was working on a documentary on that and trying to get to the bottom of that. So I hope that one day that, it does come to light, however it happened.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because there's so many questions about it, especially the fact that nobody else got it, none of the kids, none of the women, and from 30 days, he didn't even have HIV to having full-blown AIDS and dying. It's just crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, rest in peace to Eazy, of course, true pioneer on all levels. Yourself, your music career goes back, long before the N.W.A. days. Like you said, it was in your family. When did you first get involved, with Lonzo and everybody in the World Class Wrecking Crew?
Well, I was in a rap group and a DJ crew called the Invasion Force, sort of patterned after Soul Sonic Force, because those are our references back then. That's what we had to go with, and that was with me, Joe Cooley, Carlos, Nick. Crazy Tunes came along eventually a little later on to be a part of that. DJ Aladdin also was a part of that, and DJ Speed, was a part of that as well. So that crew that we had was just a group of guys who wanted to be DJs. We would go up to the Uncle Jam's Army parties. We were still in high school. And we said, man, let's just put our own little crew together. So we, got our chips together, started buying some equipment and borrowing equipment and doing little gigs here and there, little backyard birthday parties. Eventually we graduated to doing house parties, on the weekends. Some house parties we would do, man, eventually when we started to grow our business, was so packed that by the end of the party, when everybody left, there were blue jean stains all along the walls. Then we started doing like school dances, and then graduated up to just doing our own sort of, promotional stuff. And then eventually, one day we would go to the club, Eve After Dark, where Lonzo and the Wrecking Crew would be. And at that time, they were called Disco Construction Productions, and they had their crew there, but they were just DJs at the club, and then they would rent out equipment as a mobile DJ company. And Lonzo would throw these contests every now and then, and I was the rapper in our crew. I was the MC. Joe Cooley and the other guys, they were more or less on the turntables. And Joe and I would do these routines back and forth, at our little, our parties and the school dances. And so we had another friend of mine, his name was McKinley, and we would go to these, Eve After Dark sort of dances, and not really to even dance. We go there to check out the DJs. We'd go to Uncle Jam's Army parties to check out the DJs. And DJ Yella at that time was like, he was like the top DJ in the neighborhood. Everybody knew him. He had his mixing going and all that kind of stuff because he had learned from Davey DMX. So we went there one night, and Lonzo was like, yo, we're going to have this contest. It's a rap contest next week. Come on back, bring your best rhymes, whatever. You win $100. So me and my buddy McKinley, we looked at each other, oh, man, we're going to win this. So we worked all week, man, on this dope routine like Double Trouble and, like Treacherous 3. We had it going back and forth. We did the harmony raps and all that kind of stuff. And we had it down tight. So that day of the contest, we were supposed to go to the club. He called me up saying he couldn't make it. So I'm like, man, we done worked on this thing all week, and, we got it down tight. What am I supposed to do now? And he's like, well, just go do one of those routines you do with Joe Cooley, man. You'll be all right. You'll be fine. So, all right, man, whatever. So I went up there, and the thing that I noticed was that none of the MCs were engaging the crowd. They were all just talking about themselves. Yeah, baby, I got cars, I got clothes, I got this, I got that, I got the Gucci, I got the, Fila watch, all that kind of stuff. And I said, you know what? It's about the people. Hip-hop is about the culture. It's about the people. It's about getting the crowd involved. So I got up and just, bam, started, hitting it with the call and response and then doing my little routines and doing all that. And the crowd went crazy, man, and they loved it. And so Lonzo, I won the contest. Lonzo pulled me to the side. He said, hey, man, I'm working on this thing. Got some ideas. How about you come back, this week on Wednesday, and I'll talk to you about it some more. So I'm sitting there like, oh, yeah, that's all cool. But this dude ain't paid me my money yet. So where's my $100 at? So I said, well, I guess I'm going to come back Wednesday to make sure I get my money. So I went that Wednesday, and I noticed that it was a skinny dude on the turntables that I knew from junior high school. And I said, oh, that's Dre. I said, he must be a part of this. So I said, well, if he a part of this might be cool. So I'm going to hear out, what dude's got to say, and then I'll see what's up from there. So, yeah, Lonzo, we talked about it. He said, yeah, man, I'm going to be making some records. I'm making some moves. And I've been looking for, an MC and a rapper, like you. So I'm thinking like, well, man, I'm already in a crew. What am I supposed to do? So he gave me my money. He paid me my $100. And I said, what's up to Dre? And I went back and talked to my boys. I said, hey, man, look, this might be something cool for everybody. Let me go and check it out. I'm going to keep 1 foot here and 1 foot there, and when I get a chance, I'm going to pull y'all into some stuff. And I did. I like Joe Cooley would come up there, and I'd sneak him into my sets on the turntables because little did Lonzo know that I was also a DJ too. But when he found that out, he's like, oh, man, it's icing on the cake. So I would take like that first hour for the Wrecking Crew, and then, I think Dre would come after me, then Yella would do the prime spot, and maybe Lonzo or DJ Unknown would fill out that last half. So I did that for a while, and then we finally got into the studio, and Lonzo was like, well, you ready? It was my first time ever being in the studio. He booked some studio time. I think he might have booked like 4 hours studio time. But what he also didn't know was I had a photogenic memory at the time. Like I could look at something once or twice, and I had it down. Rapper's Delight, when I first heard the song, bought it from the store, listened to it like once, and had the whole record, down. I could read something and get it down right. So went to the studio, man. I did the song in one take, and they were looking at me like, well, damn, what we going to do now, So Yella was like, hold on, let me program another beat. So we had borrowed the drum machine. It was a Lin drum, and it was really like a little rinky-dink studio we were in. So Yella flipped the beat real quick, recorded something, and I already had rhymes in my head. So I went in there into the booth, bam, knocked out another song in 4 or 5 minutes. And, Yella mixed some stuff down, and we were out of there in like 45 minutes, man, tops, I think, with 4 hours of studio time booked. So we bailed out of there. We put the song together. We pressed it up, and this was our first song ever called Slice. We knew nothing about the music industry. We knew nothing about how to, sell a record, how to put it in the stores, how to get it distributed. But from that experience, we just learned how to do it, from just going into the mom and pop stores. Hey, can you take 5 or 10 of these. We come back next week and see how they sold, and going to different distributors and going, hey, can you take a few of these? Can you make order some of these? And so out of that whole process, I was learning, not only just the music side of it, but I was also learning the business side of it. And I think that's why I sort of, became both just a musician and also a businessman. But to answer your question, that's kind of like how I got started in the music industry.